we could call this the academic dream and success of Joel Schwartz. The first school I went to was called the William Lloyd Garrison School. And I mentioned, I think earlier, that school was literally located next to the apartment that I lived in. It was just separated by a chain link fence. So every single student in this William Lloyd Garrison Elementary School was Jewish. And every teacher, the only qualifications in those days to have a public sector job was one, you had to be Irish, and two, you had to be Catholic. And the situation, that is to say, you had a school full of Jewish children, teachers, all of whom were both Irish and Catholic, most of whom were female. And you see, the primary goal of first grade teachers is, of course, to teach reading. But many of these Jewish students, including myself and the guy who became my best friend, we both came from homes where mothers were well educated. Now, they didn't buy books because they couldn't afford books, just like we didn't have any toys. But at that time, we're talking now here about the beginning of World War II. There was, at that time, probably the second best public library system in the United States, and probably in the world, the Boston Public Library system. So all of these mothers, not all, but a good many of them, would go to the branch of the Boston Public Library, take out children's books, and teach their children how to read. I cannot tell you why, and I don't even suggest that the fact that a lot of us already knew how to read when we came into the first grade, and thus were a threat and a challenge to these teachers. But I can tell you this, that my first grade, I spent probably a third, maybe a half of the time of my first grade as a, quote, problem student or problem child. And as punishment, in those days, the teacher had one of these big desks, and there was a little small place for the teacher's feet. It's all dark. You know what I'm referring to? And I spent at least a third of my first grade underneath there, in the dark, being kicked continuously by this female teacher's high heels or whatever she was wearing.